I actually spent years just wearing these fingerless, like wool nylon blend gloves when it got cold here in New York City. And when my fingers were cold, as they obviously would be, I'd just like retreat them into the glove and ball up my fists because like my poor little Australian self did not understand the beauty and utility of leather gloves. Well, no more. I have been slowly but surely building up a cache of leather gloves over the past couple of years in stealthy prep for this very video, the best leather gloves for winter. Because you want to keep your fingers warm, but you don't want to look like you dress yourself from Walmart, which is where I got those gloves. Well, look, I got you. The thing is, when you Google leather gloves for men, like for winter, you usually either get really dressy European style, like calf leather gloves, or burly work gloves, which are cool, but they're unlined. Like they're for keeping splinters from messing up your hands, not from keeping them warm. But today, we're going to be talking about the best leather gloves for winter, for style, and for work in this here video in 4 different animal leathers. And we're going to get progressively tougher and colder with each pick. But for the record, I wear the first pick on this list the most often because while as an Australian from the tropics, I find New York City pretty cold in winter, it practically never goes below 0 Fahrenheit here, and the average temperature on a month-to-month basis is never even below freezing actually. The average is 33.7 in January. So usually I'm okay in the first and least expensive gloves on this list. It's the best all-rounders, Sullivan glove. Sullivan glove is just a great institution in American gloves. Everything is made in Bend, Oregon. Everything is cut and hand-sewn to order. And it's not part of like a gigantic conglomerate like another brand on this list. It's a nice small company. Gloves are their whole thing, although I see they've actually added slippers since I last checked in, but they're basically all gloves all the time. They have a range of leather gloves for motorcycle wear and for work, and they also have the classic line, which is what you want for general keeping yourself warm without looking like you're going to the opera, right? So these are the lined deerskin ropers, and they're the most popular in their whole classic line, except for these unlined shorties actually, but these are their most beloved cold weather gloves, built like a sturdy work glove, but with polyester fleece to keep you warm. So why deerskin? Well, it's American, first of all. It keeps the whole American-made thing going. It's very soft leather too. It makes for fairly good insulators, and because it's more elastic, this leather, they tend to fit your hand better. Deerskin adapts to your hands and fingers a bit more readily than cowhide. That's like the main reason people like it for gloves. Deerskin also just has like very good abrasion resistance and tolerance for moisture too. When you have lighter ones, like these saddle tan ones, they do get dark spots where they get wet, but they dry off and they're as good as new. Like it doesn't turn crusty and dry after getting wet like sometimes some leathers do. If you don't like the roper style gloves, they have like classic gloves and even gauntlets, but it's nice to have this bit of elastic here to keep it from sliding off, and it also helps a bit with insulation. And they're just really cool gloves, man. They come in 4 colors, they mold to the shape of your hand really nicely with wear, and they look both badass and stylish, which is the balance every guy wants with his leather gloves. They're also about the best value gloves you'll get out there. These are 75 bucks for a pair, and again, they're completely made in the US. For quality and value, I think these are the best combo. That said, given the warmth is just coming from polyester fleece, which is good but not fantastic, when the temperature starts approaching freezing, like once you're under 40 degrees Fahrenheit, they aren't fantastic. Like your fingers start getting a bit cold. So to move on to something a little bit warmer, we have Filson. So I wanted to give Filson's gloves a shout out in this realm of rugged wear that also looks good in the city. Filson is of course always part of that conversation. And in this shocking instance, Filson is not the most expensive product in this video or in the industry. These are their original lined goatskin gloves for $150. Like Sullivan, they're totally made in the USA with leather from the USA. They are pricier because, well, I mean, partly it's just because it's Filson and they're always expensive, like they're an expensive brand, but also because these gloves are lined with wool, merino wool, which is warmer than polyester and better at moisture wicking. So it's a bit of a better experience than Sullivan in that regard, and a better pick if the temperature is closer to freezing. I mean, I prefer supporting a smaller company like Sullivan, but there are good arguments to be made for the superiority of a wool-lined glove like Filson's. These are also goatskin, these ones, so it's a little less soft and flexible and tactile. I mean, like how tactile a leather is doesn't factor in very much when you're just talking about lined gloves anyway. But for the record, if your gloves are unlined, Deer is good if you need to like feel buttons and controls through your gloves, if you're like working with machinery or remote control or something like that. That's why deerskin is really popular for a lot of work situations. That aside, goat does have plenty of advantages. Namely, it has more tensile strength if you plan on really annihilating your gloves. It's kind of considered the best all-rounder for work gloves in particular. Fit-wise, if you have longer, leaner gloves, these might be a better bet than Sullivan, which is just a tiny bit stubbier. Like the fingers are longer on Filson's gloves. I obviously wear my Sullivans all the time though, but the Filson gets down into the nooks between my fingers like a little bit better. Then again, some find the fingers too fitted on Filson, so I guess just know your hand and what you want, right? Now the general consensus is that if you get below 0 degrees Fahrenheit, these gloves are not amazing, so if you're getting real cold and you start needing scientifically designed insulation, but you still want to wear like cool leather gloves and not something that looks like ski gloves, we've got a couple of really good options. The first is elk leather, Nordic elk leather from the Swedish company Hestra. That's another company that's all gloves all the time since they were founded in the 1930s. Elk leather, since you're probably wondering, elk is generally believed to have just about all the properties of deer skin, which makes sense given how similar the animals are, but it's thicker. Deer is like 2.5 to 3 ounces, and elk starts at 4, and it's a bit more abrasion resistant as well. So adding to all the weather readiness of this glove is a bunch of artificial stuff, because a thin layer of wool has its limits when you're sub-zero, and especially when you're talking about gloves, which don't have a lot of like room to pack in like goose down or stuff like that, like you can with a jacket. So you sort of need to go artificial if you're getting sub-zero in gloves. This is the Utsjo glove, Utsjo?
Utsjö.
Utsjo glove, and whatever they're called. This glove has 2 non-leather elements to it. The first is fleece made from polyester and polyamide, which is nylon. Combining those two makes the fabric way less likely to pill, as polyester is wont to do. And not that there's a lot of abrasion happening inside the glove, unless you've got pretty nasty fingernails, but nylon has more abrasion resistance than apparently like all textile raw materials, even when it's wet. So anyway, combining polyester and nylon makes the lining more durable and more moisture wicking. So if you're worried about polyester not being crazy breathable, even though polyester is pretty good at moisture wicking on its own, the nylon makes it even better in that regard, like just in case you sweat a lot. And if you're saying, well, sure, polyester is pretty warm in cold weather, but not amazing, then get ready for the next layer in this glove, which is Primaloft. Primaloft Gold, in fact, is what it's called. Primaloft, if you're a boot dork like me, it might have made you think about the insulation in Timberland's 6-inch boots, because they're insulated with Primaloft. And those boots are famously extremely warm. Now, I couldn't find out about the grading of Timberland's Primaloft, but Primaloft Gold, which you got in here, they do sell silver and black as well, which are like not as good as Primaloft Gold. It's their most effective insulator and provides the same warmth as 550 pil powered down wood. And since you're not going to pack a lot of down into a glove, again, it's a pretty good choice here. Fun fact, Primaloft was actually made for the US Army because goose down is bad in wet weather. Primaloft doesn't retain water. So despite it not being like, natural materials, it's very, very good. Like you won't get wet if you sweat, and they're really very good in super, super cold temperatures. Lastly, the last glove I'm showing you here, and I know videos like this normally do 5 picks, but I just didn't think we needed any more than these. I think we've got a pretty good lay of the land here. I guess I could have gotten a dress glove, I suppose, but that's not the theme of this video, is it? Anyway, Hestra is a good option for hitting the town or for doing light work if it's super cold. If you want a more dedicated work glove that can do anything at the sacrifice of it being a little less versatile and dressy and flexible, but I think you can still wear it with casual outfits, Hestra is more versatile and super warm, but for the workiest and coldest weather glove on this list, take a look at Giver. This is a glove you can literally grab a burning log with if you want to. These are the 4-season gloves. These guys are made with cow leather, which is obviously the most common leather out there, and that helps keep the price down. These are actually cheaper than Hestra and Filson at $135 a pair. Partly because it's cowhide, partly because they're made in Pakistan, and their point is to handle just anything you want to do, no matter how fanatically you want to torture your gloves. They're totally waterproof because the leather is waxed, and also because they have a Hippora membrane that's actually waterproof. So you're meant to believe you can really plunge your hands through ice into a frozen riverbed if you want to, I don't know, kill Sylvester Stallone or something with these. There's 40 grams of Thinsulate insulation, which is comparable to Primaloft. And there's this weird reflective heat shield under the front of your hand for even more warmth retention. If you read the site's reviews, it's just firefighter after ice fisher after Canadian swearing up and down about the warmth and the waterproofness. Hestra is also good when you're sub-zero, but if you need the waterproofness and the reinforcedness and the thickness of cowhide, they're a bit less stylish and flexible. They take quite a bit longer to break in, but these are kind of like the end-all be-all of really, really tough warm leather gloves. And that about wraps it up. So Sullivan and Filson are great for above zero, Hestra and Giver are great for sub-zero, all different leathers and different looks and different pros and cons for whatever you need. These are very, very good gloves. They look really cool and they get the job done, whatever you need to get done. That's my video on leather gloves. I literally spent a good few years leading up to this one, but I'm really psyched on all of these. Let me know what you need in the comments below, which one you like. Links are all in the description below if you want them. And subscribe as well if you're not up here, because nice, durable leather and canvas and twill things is what this channel's all about. There's more of that coming up.